Hello, IP friends. Welcome to IP series with your favorite podcast host, Rita Amwiri Chinda. Now, today's conversation is going to be focusing on copyright, public performance, what DJs need to know about intellectual property, how artists can actually commercialize and, make that extra dough. So, welcome to my new listeners. Thank you for listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed listening to it, please share with your friends and family. And for my returning listeners, thank you guys for coming back. Now let's get into today's conversation, which is not going to be so long but really interesting. Now, before I tell you about our case study for today, here is copyright 101 that you need to know. Now, copyright as one of the intellectual property mechanism is automatic, grants automatic protection to the creators in Nigeria so far as it's in a fixed or tangible format. However, we advise, and the Nigerian Copyright Commission has advised, that you deposit a copy through their e-system with them for documentation purposes. In the event that someone uses your intellectual property and you guys are arguing about who owns it, because what we apply here in Nigeria is the first to file principle. So copyright 101, again, copyright is automatic. It grants you automatic protection from the moment you create that work. Now, Timi Dakolo is known for giving viral surprise performance at weddings, birthday. Has a very smooth voice. When you hear the Iyawo Mi, who doesn't want to dance to Iyawo Mi? Come on, guys. But he had an episode where during the APC campaign, Shega Link had tagged me. I was like, dude, they're playing your song at the APC campaign rally. And he was like, why are you guys using an artist's work without their consent, etc., etc. And one thing that stood out for me was the key word there was without their permission. I mean, when I talk about intellectual property and you wanting to use it as a third party, I always make emphasis on consent, permission, and authorization. You need to get those things done. So where that is missing, you're kind of gonna be infringing on the person's intellectual property. And trust me, I like to follow conversations on social media where we have IP cases that are trending. I like to go through the comment section, and one comment that stood out for me was someone saying, so those of you that play other people's music at parties, are you guys not infringing? Now it depends. Is it a public party where you have I don't know, guys, house parties, you just a family get together? And from my understanding, I am aware that DJs actually pay a collective licensing fee to the collecting society so that they will not be found wanting or held liable for copyright infringement. You get? Because it's only the copyright holder that has the right to public performance. They are the only ones that have the right to distribute their work to the public, to perform it, whatever. That's their exclusive right so far the work is in a tangible form. And Timi Dakolo's song is in a tangible form, making it eligible for copyright protection in Nigeria. So the questions keep coming. Are they actually infringing on the artist's song if they play it at a public event like the campaign, the APC campaign? Would the use fall under fair dealing principle? Fair use is for the United States, fair dealing is for Nigeria. Now, a song is an eligible work that is listed under the Nigerian Copyright Act and enjoys automatic protection as long as it's in a fixed medium, and they get to enjoy that right for the lifetime, for as long as they are alive, up until when they are dead. 70 years after they are dead, their heirs and successors will basically inherit it and get to exercise the exclusive right that these artists enjoyed while they were alive. So I've talked about roles of heirs and successors of dead authors in light of the Femi Femi Fela Kuti case. I talked about that in one of the episodes, so check that out, guys. I also did a Twitter thread about that. Before we get into the general nature of copyright as relates to musical works such as songs, I would like to state that as an artist or as a creative, you are entitled to two forms of rights. First, you have the economic right to actually generate and make money from your creativity. That is you commercializing and exploiting it. You could license it, you could assign it to a CMO to actually get royalties for you. You can actually sell it, but I'm a bit iffy about that. But then we've seen the trend where well-known artists have been selling their catalogs, but not so selling of the catalog doesn't mean they're selling all of their rights, which I'm going to be talking about later. But then it goes to show you that you can actually make money out of your creativity. You don't necessarily need you have to invest. You also have to be knowledgeable as to how the business of music works. Secondly, you have the moral right to prevent third parties from actually modifying your work, from changing it without your consent, from doing anything that is considered to be derogatory, from distorting it, mutilating it, any of those things that they do without your consent. You have the right to prevent third parties from doing that so that your reputation is not at stake. All of those things. Now, in the event where you sign an agreement and you give out both your economic and moral right, trust me, guys, you really can go back, especially when it has to do with the sale of your copyright. I know someone had shared a document with me, and it was written in one of the clauses that the person was assigning his economic and moral right in perpetuity, and I was like, fam, don't do that, don't sign it. But unfortunately, the person had signed before coming to meet me, and I was like, okay, let's see how we can go around this and resolve it. If you have like a renegotiation clause, we can see how we can go about it. But I'm just going to stop there for now, and then move on to the general nature of copyrights for your creative work. Now, because we are talking about a Nigerian case, I would like you guys to read Section 6 of the Copyright Act at your own convenience, guys. Section 6, Sub 1, Paragraph A, which talks about how the general nature of copyright applies to literary or musical works. So they can reproduce the work in any material form. They can actually publish it. They can produce, reproduce, perform, or publish any translation of the work. You can make any cinematographic film or a record in respect of the work. You can actually perform the work in public. I want you guys to take note of that. You can distribute it to the public for commercial purposes. Copies of the work by way of retail, lease, hire, loan, or similar arrangement. You can also broadcast or communicate the work to the public by a loud speaker. You see how I have to make emphasis on the loud and speaker, or any similar device. Or you can also make an adaptation of that work. Now, let's talk about performing the work in public, and also publishing any translation and using a loudspeaker to broadcast or communicate. Now we're going to be talking about performance right. Now, performance right is defined according to the Nigerian Copyright Act to be any dramatic performance which includes dime or mime, a musical performance, or a reading or recitation of literary act, or any similar presentation, which is all so far as it is a live performance given by one or more individuals. Now, this rights includes the right to perform, to record, to broadcast live, to reproduce in any material form, to adapt the performance in question. Now, would you consider the DJ playing Timi Dakolo's song to be exercising his performance right? Please let me know in the comment section. I will give my answer later. Right? So now, even if he did not perform that song, what is the liability of the DJ? Or are we going to assume that APC, that's the organizers of the event, had gotten the necessary or required license to enable the DJ actually perform without any issues by going through the collecting management organization in Nigeria? Because it's only a copyright owner that can actually perform his work, and in order for you to do or exercise any of those rights, you need to get a written license from him authorizing you to actually exercise one of those rights. Now, section 11, which talks about assignment and licensing, says that an assignment or testimony disposition of copyright may be limited so as to apply to only some of the acts. Now, it goes further to say that no assignment of copyright and no exclusive license to do any act which is controlled by copyright unless it is in writing. So did they have the right to actually play the song in writing? Now, it also says a non-exclusive license to do any act which is controlled by the copyright owner may be written or oral, or they may be inferred from conduct. So maybe you had sort of body language and all those things comes into place when you like give someone the go ahead to use your work without actually paying for anything. Another way is that they can obtain what is called a blanket license to actually perform or broadcast that song at their event. So if you're an event organizer, make sure that you get this license from the collecting society so that you and the DJ will not be held liable for unauthorized use and exercising the exclusive right granted to a copyright holder. Now, you can listen to, I think, episode 1 and 3 of my podcast where I talked about the roles of the CMOs as the collecting management organizations, rights of copyright owners, how to commence a copyright infringement suit, and the rest of it. So going back to all of this, was Timi Dakolo's performance right exercised without his consent? Did the DJ and the organizers exploit his exclusive right of distributing and publishing his musical work or broadcasting it live by using a loudspeaker? I'm sure you know the answer to that. I mean, a lot of people have said certain things like he doesn't really have much say, DJs do not have any liability, they're entitled to that. But I know in one of the conversations I had on the platform, a DJ had expressly stated that they are actually required to pay a certain amount of money, which is then given to the CMOs so that they are not held liable for any unauthorized use or anyone coming to claim that their music was performed without their consent or broadcasted without their consent using a loudspeaker or any similar material. So in the course of doing this researching for this episode, I came across 2 cases that were against Donald Trump. Now, an artist called Neil Young had sued him for using 2 of his songs. The first one was Rocking the Free World and Devil's Side Ways, where he said that he was, the inspiration or the message behind the song was not being conveyed because of Donald Trump's campaign motive or message that he was going around. He was rather promoting hate, but it turns out parties had settled out of court. I don't know, most of these cases we need precedent, guys. Like, if you sue, let it go all through so we have a case we can always rely on. Now we just say parties settled out of court the settlement was undisclosed, and we don't really have more details about that. Then another one, the guy actually sued him, that Eddie Grant sued him for using his song Electric Avenue in an ad sometime in 2021, and was suing him for $300,000, guys. That's a lot of dough, considering the current exchange rate now, I mean, 1 naira to it, I think it's $1,000 or 850 now, because I did read somewhere where you're like, oh, because of the delegates selling their dollars actually, went down a bit. So yeah, just imagine all of that. But what does this tell you? I mean, in this digital era now, creators are becoming more proactive. They are now monitoring their intellectual property works by themselves, other than using private investigators or law firms to actually monitor their work being used without their consent. They're actually doing the work themselves. It seems like with the internet, it's easier for you to actually kind of track people using your work, because I'm not sure Timmy saw that first, but he may have, because everyone was practically glued to their TV on that day when this took place. But then it went viral, and that's the thing. Once an infringement happens, everybody is going to know about it. You're going to be in the news. Everyone will be talking. But what you find out in all of this conversation is that we lack intellectual property knowledge in Nigeria. Most people don't even know the basics, that when dealing with intangible assets such as intellectual property, you need consent. You may plead the fair dealing defense when you're using it for research purpose, like I'm doing now. I'm actually educating you. You're criticizing someone's work, you're creating a satire or parody, you're reporting a case or news or something. That's where fair dealing comes into play. But fair dealing also says that while you're doing that, please also acknowledge the copyright owner. So you don't just stop at, oh, I'm going to use Electric Avenue, and then you use it and then you don't acknowledge Eddie Grant. You're gonna be held. For the DJs, I think it's a bit tricky, because if your song is well known, people can always link it to you, like, oh, that's Timmy Dakolo's song. But what happens if you're not a popular person? But then one or two persons will definitely know you, so they will still be able to link your song to that particular use. It's like the Ameno case. Like sampling, and the whole thing blew, became viral, and next thing we're hearing they're suing, and next thing we're hearing they've settled, and next thing we're hearing they've signed someone, just sort of thing. But back to today's conversation. DJs, if you're listening to my podcast, or if you have a friend who's a DJ, please tell them to associate themselves with their association. They have one. I mean, just register with your association, pay attention to whatever it is you guys are agreeing, or make so that you're not held, like, especially when you're upcoming, you're trying to be well known in an area, because you have to basically make your mark somewhere. So you start from home, people knowing you and all of that, then your place. I know one time I used to ask, I used to wonder, these people that play songs during the launch of a product, do they actually get licensed to play it? And I asked that question to the Copyright Commission I think 6-7 years ago on Facebook, and they're like, oh yeah, they are on it. And I was like, okay, cool. But now that we've been in this for how long now, I don't know, guys. We're learning every day, we're updating our knowledge, and sometimes when you have this perception or information about something and you learn something, it's like you just get that light bulb moment where you're like, so this is it. So now I think I'm rambling. In conclusion, guys, if you're going to do a performance, you're organizing an event, you're getting DJs, shall get license, so that we won't see you trending for the wrong reasons. I'm going to be talking about two types of infringements, copyright infringement, before I do my recommendation. So you have the contributory infringement, where, for instance, now the DJ knowingly contributed to a copyright infringement, where he knows that, okay, this venue have not gotten license for me, but because the pay is good, make her run and make her let me just play and perform this song, forgetting that you're actually infringing on that person's work. Now, you may be held liable because you had knowledge, or they had reason to believe that you had knowledge or prior information about that infringement, so you kind of participated indirectly. Whereas for the second one, which is like the vicarious liability, this applies in a situation where, for instance, the organizers of the APC campaign had control over the DJ, and they are the one that get to actually enjoy direct financial benefit from the DJ actually infringing on Timi Dakolo's intellectual property and other artists' songs that were played there. But I'm not sure that this applies in this case, so we just stick to the contributory infringement, which basically means you knowingly infringed on the person's work, but you did nothing about it at the end of the day. So guys, as we are wrapping up, I want you guys to know that before you use a creative or an artist's work, make sure you clear all the rights. We don't want to hear "I didn't know." Clear all the rights, determine who the real author is, trace them, no matter how long it takes you, because you need to get all of this right to avoid stories that touch. If you're a DJ, if you're a DJ, basically, if you are a DJ, please ensure that you align yourself with your association so as to avoid being sued for intellectual property infringement, or you get to experience one of those takedown notices that were trending during the pandemic. I mean, a lot of people complained and they were doing live shows, and then we were having copyright takedown notices on Instagram. They're like, what was, like, why, what infringement, it's my own mix, it's original, all of those things. And you know, it's better that you do the right thing, so you don't get caught up in all of that drama. Then thirdly, always obtain consent. Very important. Permission, authorization, and do that in a written form. Get a license, whether it's an exclusive license or a non-exclusive license, before using any song. Disc jockey, make sure that DJs, basically make sure that you ask where you're playing your song. Hope you guys have gotten your license, so because I don't want issues. All of those things, make sure that is sorted out. Then artists are entitled to generate and earn money. They need to generate revenue for themselves. Why am I going through all that stress of converting what is in my head, turning my ideas into something tangible so that I can live a very good life? Then take intellectual property seriously. I'm going to keep mentioning this every freaking time, guys, because we need to understand that intellectual property is a gold mine, especially in Africa, especially in Nigeria. We have how many million? 200 million people and counting, and we know we have lots of creatives. We have 36 states in Nigeria, so imagine how blessed we are that more than half of that number are creative people. But then we are not monetizing it, we are not doing the needful in terms of being knowledgeable and converting that work into something that can generate revenue for us. So take IP seriously, learn, attend events. Thanks fully. Apologies, guys. I felt like the pandemic was a blessing in disguise, because a lot of creatives started to take intellectual property seriously. And if you're an artist, if you're a manager, you are into A&R, disc jockey, please sign up for the Music Business Academy training. You would thank me. Follow those in the music business, whether physically or online. You can shadow shadow them, just learn how they operate. It's not about wanting to blow, because if you blow, fall, die, and nothing go happen. You get if you're in the music business, the business of music, everything you do, you're creative, copyright law applies to you. So make sure you read about it, especially because IP, intellectual property, is territorial in nature. So find out how the copyright law works in Nigeria. And thankfully, we have a new bill that is about to be passed, and that bill is very rich. So read the current one, which is the 2004 version, and also read the one that's about to be passed, because your mind is going to be blown. If you're also looking to do business in other jurisdictions, I mean, be abreast with what the copyright law there says. We don't want to. They'll say ignorance is not an excuse, and that's the truth. Identify and register your song, or just identify and align yourself with a collecting management organization or a collecting society, whether in Nigeria or other African countries or globally, whichever one that works for you. Event organizers, you guys, please get your license. Get your license. Get your license. And this also applies to gospel or church activities. People that are always like, it's for God. Go and talk to the owner of the work that you want to use their song for your crusade or whatever, because you invite people, gospel artists, to come and perform that are not members of your church, and you end up paying them, but you don't value the ones in your church. It's only God that will judge you. Anyways, as a creative or artist, be proactive about monitoring your work. I mean, you have to be 2 steps ahead of the infringers. You have to also be 2 steps ahead of everyone that is using your work without your consent. Always acknowledge a copyright owner if your use falls under the fair dealing principle. I had initially mentioned, and I'm going to mention again, are you aware that on the 8th of April 2022, that's like 2 months ago, the Nigerian Senate passed the bill for an act to repeal the present Copyright Act? So get acquainted, read it. If you don't understand it, talk to your intellectual property lawyer. Shall pay them for the 30 minutes or 1 hour they will use to explain each of those sections. Attend copyright related events, whether in Nigeria or global. Now you can attend any copyright events in other jurisdictions. All you just need to do is sign up online, and you're in. So I guess I've said a lot. I hope my talk and rants made sense to you. If it didn't, please send me a message. I will find a way to make it up to you. But yeah, thank you guys for listening to me talk about Copyright 101 for artists and DJs, and also talking about public performance. I hope you guys learned something. I'm always open to conversation. I'm also open to learning. So if I made a mistake while doing this recording, please just send me an email to ipseriesinfo@gmail.com, or send me a DM to ipseries_with_reader. Reader is spelled REEDAH. Don't forget to subscribe to my newsletter. I have a newsletter, guys, and I'm in the super stoked and excited. But yeah, follow me on Insta, follow me on LinkedIn, follow me on Facebook. Just Google #IP series and you will see some of my content pop up on your feed or your search feed. So see you guys in the next episode, and lots of love, guys. Bye.